Hello and welcome to this Chauvin Arnoux webinar. Today we're going to be talking about power quality and energy efficiency, a new business opportunity. My name's Kevin Smith, I'm Business Development and Marketing Manager here at Chauvin Arnoux in the UK, and I'm going to be your presenter during this webinar. If you'd like to discuss any of the topics raised during the webinar, you can connect with me via LinkedIn. So for those of you who don't know anything about Chauvin Arnoux, we were founded in Paris in 1893 by Raphael Chauvin and René Arnoux. Chauvin Arnoux has played a major role in the history of test and measurement. We have a long and prestigious list of inventions, such as the universal tester, which was the ancestor of the multimeter, and also the current clamp. In the 20th century, more than 350 patents and brands were registered by Chauvin Arnoux. To give you an idea of some of the numbers involved, we have an average annual sales revenue of around 100 million euros. We have 10 subsidiaries spread across the world, of which the UK subsidiary is one. We have 900 employees across 7 production sites and 6 R&D departments worldwide. And we're also very proud to say that we spend around 11% of our revenue on research and development, always ensuring that we get the latest and most up-to-date products within our range. So before we get started, there's a few things I want to talk about to help you get the most out of this session. The first one is testing 1, 2, 3. Please take a moment now just to check that you've got your audio levels adjusted correctly, that you can hear the content, and that you've got a good, reliable and stable internet connection. If you do experience severe problems during the webinar, sometimes logging off and back on again will help you correct those. The session today has a duration of approximately 1 hour, and during that session you can use the questions box to ask any questions as we go. We do have staff on standby to answer your questions during the session, so please feel free to type those questions into the question box during the session. Remember to download the presentation handouts. If you go to the go-to toolbar, you'll see there a section called handouts, and in there's a PDF copy of the presentation slides. So no need to write any notes down or remember all of the content. We've already provided you with a PDF copy of the presentation slides. Now, at some point after the session, usually a few days after the session, you'll be sent a certificate to say that you attended. And also, again, maybe a week after the session, we will release the video of the session to our website, www.cauk.tv, and also on our YouTube channel. So please keep a lookout for those. And you can also visit those sites to see previous webinars that we've uploaded in the past. So with that said, let's get started. So let's have a look at what we're going to cover in the webinar tonight. So the title of the webinar is Power Quality and Energy Efficiency, a New Business Opportunity. So what we're hoping to do is actually show you how you can add power quality and energy efficiency services to your business to generate new revenue. So the first thing we're going to look at is a need in the marketplace. So we're going to show you that there is actually a need for these services, the services that you can offer. Then we'll have a look at what equipment you'd require to be able to offer those services and what the return on investment is likely to be for those. And then the final little bit is just to tell you how to get started. What do you do? You know, if you actually decided you want to go forward with this, what do you actually do? What's the next step? So in this first section, we're going to have a look at the need in the marketplace. Now, these are going back to some slides that I've used earlier in this webinar series, but just to remind you why these things are important. So we're talking about energy efficiency, and energy efficiency comes down to energy demand, effectively. How much energy do people need? And there's various estimates of the way demand is going to go in the future in the UK, and you can see these are actually mapped out on the graph in front of us. And there are various scenarios. And even the sort of steady state progression there, the orange scenario, even that shows that there's going to be a growth in demand and a growth in energy usage. And if you look at the worst case scenario there, the blue line, where electric vehicle charging comes online, and there's a lot of energy usage, the amount of energy that we need to actually generate to keep operating as a country is going to go up and up and up. Now, the problem with that is that we're not just going to be able to keep building power stations at that rate. We're not just going to be able to keep adding generation capacity. What we need to do is we need to start looking at energy efficiency. We need to start trying to reduce that demand. We need to make sure that we're using that electricity in the most efficient and responsible way possible. So why is it important? Why is energy efficiency important? Because there's going to be drivers in the marketplace. We're going to need to get these demands down. Now, if we look at that also in regard to pricing, now you'll probably be aware in the news lately and things like that, we talked about the prices for gas and particularly electricity going up. So this is a graph of the wholesale gas and electricity prices. Now, obviously, that's not the consumer price. This is the wholesale price. But generally, the consumer price will track the wholesale price. Obviously, there's usually a bit of a delay in there because the wholesale companies are buying before they're passing it on to the consumers. But you can see just over even a matter of recent months how the price has climbed and climbed and climbed. So with the price of energy getting higher and higher and higher, the drive for energy efficiency and getting the most out of electrical installations is just going to, it's going to become more and more important. And these sort of mitigation measures that we're going to put in place are going to basically, have better and better business cases, better return on investment for doing this. And obviously that makes the services that you can offer to your customers more and more popular. So again, that's just showing, as energy gets higher in price, these services become more and more essential. Now, there's also other things in there. You'll remember from November, we had the COP26 summit in Glasgow, and there were certain commitments made there, and governments are obviously thinking a lot more now about how they meet their environmental targets. And we've also got the net zero emissions targets for 2050 as well. So these things are growing. There's a lot of companies now thinking about this. There's a lot of companies putting environmental conditions on tenders and all sorts of things. So it is becoming more in the forefront of people's minds, this energy efficiency and sort of trying to reduce carbon output and all those sort of things. Now, also, obviously, there's a lot of environmental measures that have been taken. So things like photovoltaics, you'll be aware, have been around for a long time, but they're not going away. And again, the return on investment, it's going to be more likely that people are going to want these things installed. So again, that's an area that we need to look at. That's another area. Now, we'll talk to you more probably later on about why this fits in with the services that we're talking and what services specifically we talk about. But PV and also electric vehicles, obviously electric vehicle charging points is one big topic within the industry at the moment, and everybody's rushing to get into, installing electric vehicle charging points. But again, there are issues we need to think about from an energy efficiency and a power quality point of view, and certainly services that we can offer or that we'll need to be able to offer around those installations. Now, another thing that I have mentioned again in the last webinar, but in BS 7671, the wiring regulations, at the moment we have got Appendix 17. Now, Appendix 17 is only informative at the moment. It's only in there for information, and it talks about energy efficient measures within electrical installations. But there is also a statement in there that in future versions of the regulations, the intent is to take this informative appendix, Appendix 17, from the appendices and make it a formal Part 8 of the book. So once it actually becomes a formal part of the wiring regulations of BS 7671 and it becomes normative, it actually becomes part of the requirements of the regulations, then obviously these are things that we have to do then to make the installation comply, not informative, just things that we need to maybe think about if we can fit it in. So just be aware, as electricians, this is going to come eventually. We don't know what version of the regs, what amendment or whatever it'll bring this in, but they've made a clear statement there that the intention is to bring Part 8 into the wiring regulations and start to make energy efficiency an important part of the wiring regulations. And therefore, we need to be prepared for that, and we need to have, the right tools and the right services available for when that happens. Now, also, We talked a lot about energy efficiency there, but remember this webinar is covering energy efficiency and power quality. And remember, poor power quality causes many problems. So we can have disruption to the operation of equipment, premature failure of equipment, we can cause equipment to overheat, we can have increased fire risk as a result of that. We can have increased project costs through overspecification, so by not properly measuring the parameters, we just end up overspeccing things like transformers or generators, and we can lose money that way round. Increased call out and fault finding costs. So we've got problems with the electrical installation and we're seeing increased failure rates. We're seeing, faults that are hard to find. Things are just tripping off for no reason and we're trying to find out what's going on. All of these can be, indications of power quality problems. And obviously all that can be summarised under increased maintenance costs. But one point that's also important to remember is that poor energy efficiency can actually be due to power quality issues. So if we've got bad power factor, that actually leads to poor energy efficiency. So the two things are very closely linked in this regard. So the services we'll talk about some services that relate to energy efficiency, and we'll also talk about how they relate to power quality as well. The two things really do fit hand in glove together when we're looking at these services. So it's always worth thinking about this. And also for those of you who are coming at this from the first time, you might have started on webinar 3. What I would recommend is obviously if you go back to the start, go back and watch webinar 1 again in this series, and we talk about all of the things in power quality and energy efficiency that you're able to monitor and you're able to see, things like power factor and stuff like that. We talk in a great deal of detail in that in webinar 1. So although we're jumping in here and I'm talking about these things as if we're old friends with these things, again, if you are new to it, just go back and I would recommend watching the first 2 webinars in the series, and that will give you the grounding to be able to just jump into these topics and have a bit better understanding about what we're talking about. So really, when we start and put together new services or a new part of your business, a new enterprise within your business, the question is, what does the customer, what's the need? What's the customer, what job does the customer want to be done? And I think it helps to think of it in these regards, that your customer's saying, I know I need to improve my energy efficiency because I'm getting high bills and I'm getting, tenders that require me to do this and all sorts of things. They've seen it on the news, but they don't know where to start. Where do I start? And that's where these new services fit in. We can do a survey, we can do some logging for a period of time, we can have a look and we can quantify these things. So even if they're going to go finish up with a really elaborate solution, or it may be that actually you look at the installation and it's very efficient and there's not much they can do. But the only way you can do that is to actually measure it, quantify it, analyse it, and then make informed decisions. So the customer's got this need. They want to improve their energy efficiency, but they don't know where to start. And obviously one of the things you can help with as well is prioritisation. So you can say, actually, you really need to start on your out of hours usage. Maybe that's a good area. We know we can get that down quite quickly. Or maybe, well, it's obvious that your lighting is using a lot, so let's start there. So sometimes it could be that there's a vast array of things you can do, but you can actually start to prioritise them in the ones that are going to make the best, quickest impact. And this is where obviously these type of measurements come in. So that's looking at it from an energy efficiency point of view. Now, power quality can be a little bit more intangible from that side of things with customers particularly. So it comes down this route. I think there's a problem with my installation, but where do I start? So the customer has got this idea and there's a humming noise, there's things getting hot, there's increased failure rates, they're getting things tripping off for no reason and all of this sort of, a lot of shutdowns, a lot of replacement of equipment. And it's like, I just feel there's something not quite right, but I don't know, maybe they haven't got the background, they haven't got the tools to actually describe what they think's going on. But where do you start? And this is, again, it's the process of, you need to be able to see something. You need that evidence. You need something to be able to analyse to pin down these problems. And this is where power quality analyzers and our loggers and things like that are absolutely perfect, because you can do logging for a period of time. You've got actual data, actual evidence there in front of your eyes, and you can start to say, well, that looks okay, and that looks okay, that looks okay, but actually we can see, oh, you've got a lot of harmonics there, or, actually your harmonics are fine, but your power factor's way off. And there could be all sorts of things in there that you could capture. There could be transients, could be all sorts of things. But until you actually offer that service, until you actually, somebody goes in, does the recording, sits down, analyses the data and shows the customer, and again, that's where you go. So it can be quite hard. The actual power quality side of things can be a little bit difficult, because with energy efficiency, a customer goes, right, I've got a goal. I need to improve my energy efficiency. I want to drive down my bills. I want to do these things. Whereas the power quality angle can be a little bit more intangible. It's there's something not quite right, but I'm not quite sure what it is. And sometimes the one leads into the other. So you'll do an energy efficiency survey, which will highlight power quality problems, and then you can, do more analysis on the power quality side to actually drill into that. But it's really important to think of this from a customer-centric point of view. What problem are you trying to solve for the customer? So now let's take a look at the services you can offer. All businesses, large and small, are always looking for new ways to grow. And often the easiest way to do this is by adding new products and services which you can sell to existing customers. Power quality and energy efficiency is a great and scalable way to apply this principle to achieve growth in your business. Now, I want to highlight a little term there, a word that I gave a little bit more emphasis: scalable. And this is something that you're always looking for when you're going to add a service or add a product or service to your business, is scalability. So you can start off by buying one power and energy logger, and with that, at a time, you can do one survey or one logging session for maybe a week or 2 weeks. And then at the end of that, you can gather the data, you can charge for it, and that's made some money for you. And what we see in our business quite often is somebody starts off with one, and then they say, well, with one, I can make so much money a week. But with two, I can make twice that. Or with three, I can make 3 times that. So it almost becomes this scalability is just limited by, yes, your number of customers, but also the infrastructure that you've got. And you've got that ability that if you get success with this and you actually add this service in, you start to notice that this is becoming something that's actually, a worthwhile part of your business, you can scale. You add the products in. Each product then has a certain, it's earning you a certain amount of money. And off the back of that, then obviously you can put the business case together. And, before you know it, you might have 10 of these things and all you're doing is power quality surveys. And you're just sat there looking at results and generating reports and dealing with customers and that side of things. So it is scalable. And I think that's one of the key things I wanted to point out here is when you are looking for business opportunities and you're looking for something to invest in, you want something that is scalable. You don't just want something where, right, I can do it once. Okay, that's it. If you've got it success here, you can reinforce that success and you can actually use that to grow. So I think that's an important point that I wanted to make there. So what services could you offer from a sort of energy point of view? We're looking mainly on this slide, we're looking at energy, but as I said before, the two things really do cross over. Power quality and energy really sort of cross over. So if we're going to do power and energy logging, one of the first and most obvious things is a power and energy health check. You can go along to a customer, an existing customer, you can send out a load of emails to your existing customer database, you can get a load of flyers done and stick them through doors on industrial estates or whatever you want to do. We will come and do a, whatever you want to call it, 20-point health check, 50-point health check, whatever it is. And we will have a look at your energy usage. So you might find that the logging period, you connect it up for a day or a week or whatever you decide. You go in, you do some measurements, and off the back of that, you will generate a report. And it just gives the customers a quick idea of, is their electrical installation okay? Is it not okay? And obviously over time you can establish benchmarks, you can set up your own little reports for this. You can have your red, amber, green type system, of your points that you're checking. And from that you can develop this little service where, it's quite quick, quite straightforward, but it's really a foot in the door. It's the bread and butter. It's offering this, and then off the back of that you might identify more things, and then that leads to more issues and more detailed things. Now, these could be one-off surveys. You could just be going in and doing a one-off, but also I think a great idea with these is if you can turn this into a recurrent type of testing. So maybe you're doing this annually, maybe you're doing this every 2 years, maybe you're doing this every 3 years, whatever you decide. But that gives you that recurrent business then that you can actually go back and say, look, it's been 12 months since we did your last health check. How about we pop in, we can do your price, we'll come in, we'll do it again, and we'll just see if anything's changed, if you're using an engine in a different way, you've added any new equipment or anything like that, just to make sure things are still as good as they can be. So just a basic health check, power and energy health check, I think is a very good starting point. Next one down, an installation loading assessment. Now, this generally is current logging. So what you're doing is you're measuring the current in the installation over a period of time, generally a week at least. And then off that, you would have a look at potentially an assessment of the maximum demand of the installation. So how much is being drawn by that installation, how much is being used out of hours, what phase balancing, things like that. Again, is it out of balance? What's the out of hours usage? And all sorts of things. So it's basically a loading assessment to say, really, we've got a 300 amp supply. How much of that are we actually using? Are we over that? Are we under that? At what times of day are we using these things? All that sort of thing. So these can be a precursor to other stuff. So it could be that you're going to go on to add to this installation. So you're going to do an addition, you're going to add another piece of equipment, and you want to know, is there sufficient capacity within the installation to add this on? It may be that there's been a lot of overheating and things like that, and you're actually assessing it to see whether actually these things, could be overloaded, and you could be looking to identify overloading within installations as well. So there's a lot of reasons why you might do this, but it's basically a simple current logging and assessment of the installation, and obviously you can create the graphs and you can look at that. And again, if you go back to previous webinars in this series, you can see where I've done similar. And we've gone through and actually looked at the current demand of particular installations and identified different potential issues that were going on. So again, if you want to go back in the series and have a look at that, there's some examples in there as well. Now that ties in really with the next one, which is pre-installation surveys. Now I've mentioned on here pre-installation surveys for PV and EV because they're very topical. But this could be a pre-installation survey for a new production line. This could be a pre-installation survey for an extension or an addition to the installation. So there could be a lot of reasons why you'd want to do a pre-installation survey. And this is basically knowing everything up front, getting all the information you can up front so that when you come to do your design, where you come to install, you're not surprised by anything. Now, PV is a perfect example with this because generally in most domestic situations, certainly, you would have a G83 compliant inverter. And G83 is a standard that actually tells the inverter under what voltage, what frequency requirements, and all those sort of things for it to work. So if the voltage supplied to an inverter, the mains voltage, this is the mains AC voltage, not the DC voltage, the mains AC voltage, supplied to the inverter is outside of the limit specified by G83, it won't work. So you may actually have, a volts drop issue within your installation. You connect your inverter up and it simply won't switch on. Or it works for a bit and then it cuts out, and then it works for a bit more and it cuts out. And it's because you're right on the bottom end of those limits. Same with frequency. There's frequency brackets for it to work within. So that's on a sort of domestic or smaller commercial scale for G83. You've also got, on bigger installations, G59. So then you've got protection relays and all these sort of things that are set up to operate within certain parameters. Now, you want to know that the supply is going to be within those parameters before you install the whole solar farm connect it all up, and then try and connect it up to the mains and find it's actually out of spec. And then you've got to start speaking to the DNO about, changing the transformer, changing tappings on the transformer, increasing the size of supply cables, and all those sort of issues you don't want to get into. That could mean that the return on investment for that PV installation isn't actually viable anymore, because there could be so much work required to actually get it into that usable condition. Similar issues with EV, electric vehicle charging. If you're going to add in electric vehicle charging, and particularly if somebody wants a big fast charger or something like that installed, you need to know that the electrical installation is capable of doing that. So again, a loading assessment is a good way of doing that. And you might actually identify, well, it wouldn't be capable of doing it in an evening, but actually there's a set point at night, it's 5 hours at night or something like that, where actually it would be suitable. So then maybe you've got to design the installation where there's a timer, or there's relays or contactors or something in there, or a particular tariff. Obviously, a lot of EV charging points are done on certain tariffs. Again, where you're charging using a cheaper rate electricity at night. So again, having your loading assessment or your pre-installation survey for your EV, again, very, very important, and a great service that you can offer. Again, either a service that you're going to use in your own company because you're going to be the one installing the PV and the EV and stuff, or this is a service you could offer to other electrical contractors or other companies. You come in and do the survey beforehand, give them the data, and then they've got that information to go ahead with. Now, next on here, installation energy optimization. Now, it's a very sort of big title, and sometimes people get confused when I talk about optimization. They think about voltage optimization, because that is a sort of niche area, making sure your voltage is at the right levels. But what we're talking about here is a bit more sort of broad than that. Installation energy optimization. So what are we saying? Well, we're talking about reducing demand. So what we're saying is, you've got electrical installation. It's a, 100 amp 3-phase installation. How do we know that you're getting the most out of that installation? Have you got your phases balanced correctly? Do we just need to move a few circuits around from phase to phase to get that phase balancing a lot better? Can we actually have a look at your out of hours usage? Is there a way we can get that down? Could we add things in like PIRs for lighting that's in areas that aren't used very much? Can we put timers in? Could we put thermostats in? Is there some level of automation we can put in with this? Have we got the heaters coming on at the right time? Do they vary over the year so they're not coming on? Have we even got lighting switched? There's even examples I've seen where lighting near windows can be switched off, but that further away from the windows is switched on. So you've actually got maybe 2 light switches for a room where you would have had 1 previously, which allows you to alter the lighting levels within that room, dependent on the time of day or the time of year. So installation energy optimization is just about looking at the energy that's been used by that installation, but refining it and say, look, what can we do to tweak this and get the most out of what you've got? What can we do? There's measures in there. There's quite simple measures we can put in place there to get the most out of what you've got, and really just do that without getting carried away. This is something really for most sort of small and medium businesses. You could certainly do quite a bit in that regard to optimize and reduce the demand. Next bit in here is what we're calling enhanced EICR. So an EICR is electrical installation condition report, or periodic inspection report as it used to be called. So this is a regular inspection that would be done on business premises, business electrical installations. It can be done on domestic properties, but a lot of the time it's usually done on businesses and things like that. There's a requirement for it to be done, every 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is for business premises. They can get done on domestic properties as well. But what we often find is an EICR is a standard tick box form from NICIC or NAPIT or whoever it is, IET. You go through that form and you're really just putting in the stuff that it says. That's it. So, for example, there might be a box on there that says maximum demand. And a lot of times, as I've mentioned in previous webinars, people just go, yeah, 100 amps, that's it, done. Well, what we're saying with an enhanced EICR is you could actually say to your customer, look, as part of the EICR we're doing, we actually offer an additional service with the EICR. And what we'll do is we'll actually do some, load monitoring. So we'll actually have a look and we'll actually measure what the demand is, and we can give you a graph of that. We can also look at things like harmonics. So we could measure THD. So that could be something. So you could actually measure either a full harmonic spectrum or total harmonic distortion. You could do a THD measurements. You could measure the power factor. So there's these things that you could actually add in as part of an EICR and just add it into the scope. And then when you present the report, the EICR report, these are additional pages. You can add them on. This is additional items. Additional sheets you can add into the report. And what it does, it actually adds additional benefit to it. It adds extra credibility to it, but it's a way you can do an upsell. So a traditional EICR would be whatever the cost is, for an extra 50 quid, 100 quid, whatever it is, whatever you decide is appropriate, you can add these extra things in, and it just separates you a little bit from the competition, and it just adds that little bit in. But if you're doing a lot of EICRs, if you're doing, 100 EICRs a year, and you can make an extra 100 quid off each one of those, again, it's worth doing. So it's that thing of what can we add? Is there something there we're missing a little bit of a trick by when we're in doing these EICRs? It's often not a lot of extra hassle to take these extra measurements, to do these extra sort of analysis. But actually it's something you can do to just add to the services you offer. Next one, energy usage analysis. Very strange title again. Don't read too much into this, but what we're talking about is looking at what energy is being used. Now we're talking about energy. So energy is kilowatt hours, units of electricity. So what's being used and when is it being used? Because if we're looking at that, what we can do then is we can actually advise the customer of the electricity tariff that would best suit them. So what you might find is actually they've got a lot of out of hours usage, and you might say, well, actually they'd be better off on a tariff that gave you cheaper electricity out of hours. Or you may find that they're actually, they've got a lot of electrical processes going on, but it's stuff that could be done out of hours. So you can say, well, rather than doing all this, maybe washing or whatever it is in the middle of the day, why don't you put that on on the night shift? And then that would actually, you could get cheaper electric for that side of things. And so what it is, it's helping the business owner or helping your customer to say, let's have a look at the tariff that you're on. Let's have a look at where your electricity usage is, and then help them to understand, actually, we could make savings here, or actually, we are on the right tariff, or actually, we're on a tariff that allows for us to use massive amounts of electricity, but we only ever use a little bit. So actually, we're on the wrong tariff. We're paying for all of this spare capacity that we're never using. So again, it's that thing of going in, looking at it, looking at the kilowatt hours, looking at when it's being used, what's being used, how much is being used, comparing that to the tariff. And again, bit of research, having an available idea of the tariffs that are available, working with the customer on that to make sure they're in the right place. So again, another useful service. Something people don't think about, but it is coming more and more and more part of what we do, is measuring carbon footprint and carbon offsetting. So what you can do, if you know the kilowatt hours usage of your installation, you can actually look up, there's figures for how much carbon, usually in grams of CO2 equivalent, per kilowatt hour. So then you can work out what the carbon footprint is of a particular electrical installation. The customer can then either put in place carbon offsetting, so they go and buy a load of trees, plant a load of trees, whatever it is, or they can actually say, this is the footprint and we're offsetting it by these other measures that we're taking within the business. And I was talking to people recently about festivals. This is a thing where actually festivals want to be able to know what's their carbon footprint nowadays. Businesses are putting this into tenders. They want to know what your carbon footprint is. Recently, near to me, they've opened a McDonald's. It's the first zero carbon McDonald's. So again, these things have to be quantified. They have to be known to actually make these assumptions in the first place. And that's a service you can offer to people. You just, again, look at their energy usage, a bit of maths with the conversion factors, and you can pretty much work out their carbon footprint of their electrical installation and give them that information. And the final one we've listed on this page here is before and after surveys. So if somebody's going to do a particular activity, say they're going to fit LED lighting, you can do a survey before, then you can fit the LED lighting, and then you can do the survey afterwards, and you can actually show the difference before and after, black and white. And also you can use that information then to inform future business cases or to validate, future economies, savings that are going on within the business. Or you can do this up front. You can do a survey beforehand. You can say, right, this is what it was beforehand. You can calculate what you think the potential savings are, do the business case, and then obviously validate that with the after measurement. But before and afters for these sorts of measures are quite important, because it does show people, we've actually made this real world saving. So again, another service you can offer. So there's loads more, but this is just something to get your brains ticking, to get you thinking of all these things you can do. So that's power and energy logging. Now, the next bit, we're going to have a look at what can you do with power quality. And as I said before, it's a spectrum, really. It's a scale. A lot of our loggers will do things like harmonics. So a PEL will do harmonics. And again, so there is a crossover. So it doesn't necessarily mean, there's a split between what you can do with a power quality analyzer and what you can do with a logger. It's a scale. But again, these are services more attuned with actual power quality analyzers. So you can actually do a supply voltage survey to EN 50160. That is a standard thing. There's set parameters in EN 50160, and actually within our data view software, you can actually generate an EN 50160 report. It's automated, it's set up, it's a standard report in there that you can do. So this is monitoring the supply voltage, the limits, the ups, the downs, the surges, the swells, the sags, all that sort of stuff. And again, that's all quantified within EN 50160. So an EN 50160 survey is a standard service that you can offer. And if you look online, people are offering those surveys. You can do a harmonic survey. So again, go in, measure the harmonics, report on the harmonics, and obviously you can do some analysis and those sort of things. But that is a specific survey you can offer, and there are standards around that. But generally, going in and actually looking at the harmonics that are present in an installation and doing some analysis of those harmonics, and maybe going to the point where you then bring in a specialist and specify some mitigation measures. Again, you can take that to the nth degree really with harmonics, but a harmonic survey is certainly a standard service that you could offer. Analysis of transients or inrush currents. So one of the things that power quality analyzers are very good at is these quite fast events. So if you were looking at, say you were having problems with surge protection, you were having surges, you were getting equipment that was damaged, you wanted to specify some surge protection, but you didn't know what type of surge protection, what levels, what speeds they need to operate at. Again, you could do an analysis of the transients within the installation or within a particular circuit, for example, and actually work out exactly what you needed to protect against and put those protective measures in place. Inrush currents, again, if you've got a particular piece of equipment where there are problems where, whenever we turn that motor on, it trips off that breaker, or, and it's we have to, sometimes reset it 2 or 3 times and it'll finally be all right. Obviously, that isn't ideal. That's not how it's meant to be. So what you can do is you can actually do assessments of the inrush currents. You can actually measure, what is going on, what's the increase, how long does it need to be there for, and then you can specify the correct characteristics of protected device. And it can be as simple as, we're talking about type B, C, and D breakers. Just for your normal circuit breakers and RCBOs. Should it be a type B, a C, or a D? Again, you know, if we do an inrush current assessment, we can have a look at that and we can specify the right characteristics of protected device. So it's you know, it's a useful service there, and it's something that actually, if you're going and you're working in these environments again, you know, having the ability to do that and having the ability to look on a graph and physically see the levels of inrush currents and how all that works, really important. Next one down, gathering data for installation designs. We talked about pre-installation surveys. This is very similar to that, but this is looking in a bit more detail, obviously, your power quality point of view. So what we can do is we can go in, we can gather the characteristics of the installation. We know the voltage tolerances, we know the frequency tolerances. You know, we know what's there already, so we know what the existing power factor is. So if we're going to add equipment, what's that going to do to the power factor? Are we adding equipment that's capacitive, in which case it'll move it a certain way? Are we adding more inductive equipment, in which case it's going to go the other way? So again, by gathering the data in advance, we can provide that to the designer, and then the designer can carry out, you know, or manufacture a piece of equipment or whatever. You can gather that data, provide it to them as a service, and actually, you know, that means then that the design will be fit for purpose and everything will go straightforward, rather than just installing something and then finding out afterwards all the impact it's got. Next one, power factor correction verification. So if we've got power factor correction within electrical installation, is it working? Was it installed 20 years ago based on the equipment that was in the factory then, and nobody's actually tested it since? Nobody's actually sure whether it still works. Nobody's, you know, aware whether it's even doing its job. Obviously, using these products, we can measure the power factor. We can look at it with the power factor correction equipment connected, look at it with it disconnected. You can see the difference. You can see what's going on. Is it actually doing its job? Is it actually working correctly? These things do wear out. The things do need, you know, require replacement or repair. They can be quite inefficient sometimes. There may be more efficient versions of these things available, so looking at it from an efficiency point of view. But also, it's just making sure that it is fit for the installation that you've got in front of you. So actually checking existing power factor correction equipment, is it there? Is it still fit for purpose? Is an important service that we can offer. Another thing, again, not so much a service maybe, but it's an application where these products often get used quite a lot, is in a production testing environment. So if you're creating a new piece of equipment, or you're involved with making, I don't know, say control panels or particular types of equipment, again, what you may do is you may want to actually, once this thing's been built, you may want to actually, you know, do some testing on it using power quality products to actually get a picture of the operation of this equipment. You know, what harmonics does it generate? What is the load characteristics of it? What are the starting currents? What are the inrush currents and all those sort of things? And off that, then you've got a picture of how this equipment operates, and you know then when you put it into service what it's going to do to the electrical installation that it's installed in. So again, if you are a manufacturer or you're working with manufacturers, actually doing this sort of production testing can be very useful. One of the main things that you'll see power quality analyzers used for is advanced fault finding and diagnostics. So generally, when you do a logging session, or maybe when you do some trend analysis with your power quality analyzer, you'll start to pick up a few issues. You might get some alarms coming through or whatever it is. That's when you want to start digging in. That's when you want to start actually fault finding, breaking it down into individual circuits, isolating, you know, turning off bits of equipment, turning off parts of the installation. Right, is the fault still there? How do I diagnose this? How do I get down to the root cause of these things? And that's where our power quality analyzers are really, really, really good at this. Because they work like a real-time, you know, it's almost like a real-time multimeter, but for power quality. So you can see those traces on the screen. You know, you can actually do the measurements in real time and see what that does to your harmonics or your power factor or whatever's going on. So that's really where these power quality analyzers with the big color displays on there, you know, really come into their own for doing this fault finding and diagnostic work.
And the final bit on here is specification of power quality mitigation solutions. So if you are going to recommend to your customer that they fit power factor correction, obviously you need to know what you're trying to correct. What is it now? What do you want it to be? What are the characteristics, so that you can either order the correct mitigation solutions, or you can work with a third party provider as a consultant, and then they will provide, you provide them with all the data, they provide you with the correct solution, you fit it, and then obviously you can go through and do your verification, check it's there and check it's all working. So the specification in the first place, getting that data so that the mitigation, it could be harmonic filtering, it could be all sorts of things that you want to put in as mitigation measures, but you need to be able to specify them properly. And if you're going to do that, obviously you need to do that measurement to make sure that they are actually right for the job. So again, that's just a short list really of services you can offer around the power quality area. And again, like I say, energy efficiency, power quality do cross over quite closely, but there's some really useful ideas and things there. Hopefully you've got your cogs turning and you're starting to think of ways that you can actually add these to your business. Now, as you can see, there are numerous services that you can offer in this field, and each of these services has other additional benefits too. So other things to think about when you've offered these services is obviously rework and rectification. So you find something wrong, you can then obviously quote for and hopefully, be paid for doing the rectification and rework to put right the things that you found, or make the changes that you found. Additions to an installation. So again, similar. If you actually go in there and you say, well, you really need to be adding in whatever it is to the installation. Again, that's extra work that you will get. It may be fitting the electric vehicle charging station in there, because you're the one who's gone in and done the survey pre. They might say, right, well, you seem to know what you're doing, you've had a look at it, you understand, the technical challenges going on. Do you want to do the installation work? So again, that comes off the back of it. We talked about mitigation, so you could be fitting power factor correction, it could be filtering, it could be all sorts of mitigation measures that once you've done the actual survey, then that follows on that you may be responsible for the mitigation as well. Recurrent testing. So again, we said a good idea is, if you're going to do these tests, to set this and recommend these are done annually, or recommend these are done every 3 years, or whatever it is. And that gets you that recurrent business. It gets that, that sort of rolling business that keeps renewing each time it goes through. So again, always look for the opportunities where recurrent testing, continual testing is available. And we talked about alterations and additions, and we talked about mitigation there. Referrals. This is an important part. Obviously, when you're new to doing this, you might not know a lot about power factor correction equipment. You might not know a lot about harmonic filtering or any of that sort of thing, or motor drives, or all of that sort of stuff. But there are plenty of companies who do. So you can get relationships with these companies. You can refer these customers to the companies. Chances are you'll probably get a finder's fee, or some sort of fee for doing that. And you can work with the companies. The companies will provide you with a solution. Maybe you do the installation of that. Maybe they'll do, commissioning of it, or you do the testing, send them the results, they'll analyse the results, that sort of thing. So don't think you've got to do everything yourself from scratch. Don't think you've got to be an expert in everything from scratch. If you can identify that there's a power factor problem, and you've got a power factor company who you work with, chances are you can send them the results and say, look, I've done this login, here's what I got. Do you think there's actually a power factor issue, and do you think there's anything we can do to actually improve that? And then you can work with them, they'll come back and say, yes, actually you need this unit installed, we'll set it up for you, we'll do all this, we'll send it over, you install it, take the results, send them through to us, there you go. So don't think you've got to do everything yourself. This can just be a starting point. And obviously, as your skills grow and your confidence grows, you'll know what you want to take on, what you don't want to take on, and you'll be able to actually add even more services to your business by doing it. But just think about that. Increase your network. Get to know the companies who actually offer these services, and you can work with them. You're bringing business to them. They're putting business through you. It's all good. It all works from that side of things. So just, consider that when you're going through. You don't have to do everything yourself from day one. So now let's take a look at the equipment required and the return on investment. A great place to start is with a power and harmonic clamp meter. In addition to the normal features expected of a clamp meter, these products can measure power, power factor, total harmonic distortion, individual harmonics up to the 25th order, and even true inrush currents. These clamps will even perform basic logging and can then be downloaded via Bluetooth into our free software. So yeah, a very good place to start. If you're looking for a clamp, most people will have a clamp meter, will be looking to buy a clamp meter. If you are thinking of buying or updating your clamp meter, or you fancy buying some more test equipment, these are a very good place to start, because in addition to the normal things you expect of a clamp meter, you've got the ability to test power. So what you can do is you put the current clamp around the cable for current, but you can also use the test leads for a voltage connection. And when you've got a current and a voltage connection, then obviously the meter can measure power. And that's the difference between these and a normal meter. You've got the current and the voltage at the same time, which then gives you these power measurements. And obviously, having a clamp meter that can very quickly do power factor, can very quickly measure total harmonic distortion, so tell you whether you've got a harmonics issue. We looked in the last webinar about the fact that we should be, when we're doing cable calculations, we should know what the THD is. We should allow for the harmonics. Again, a clamp is a very quick and easy way of doing that. We also talked about the fact that many clamps don't actually measure the current from harmonics. So if you're actually measuring the current in a cable, most clamps will actually clip off, all of the current pretty much that's in the harmonics. They just look at what's in the fundamental, or a very narrow band of frequencies just to, either side of the fundamental. So this will actually give you a real picture of the actual current that's flowing. And in the case of these meters, they'll actually give you individual harmonics. You can scroll through the individual harmonics and see how much current and what percentage of the fundamental of that current is, which is really, really powerful. They're generally not the sort of thing you'd use for doing, logging or, power quality analysis, but they are a great starting point tool or fault finding tool. If you're actually starting to trace an issue and chase into it, is it that phase? Is it that phase? Is it that circuit? What have I got on there? They're a really quick, easy, handy solution for doing these sort of things. And if you're going to buy a clamp meter anyway, again, really, you want to be looking at a power or harmonic clamp meter. They also do DC as well, so they're AC DC, which is really good. You've got an AC clamp, DC clamp. And another thing it mentions there, which I just want to go into a bit more detail on, is true inrush currents. So what it means by true inrush current is that it actually monitors the current on the circuit, and then when you turn on the piece of equipment you're trying to measure, it actually measures the additional current, the difference. So it identifies what the steady state of the circuit is. It measures what's going on during the inrush period, and then it identifies the steady state at the end. And it will give you then an idea of the inrush of what's going on. But a lot of so-called inrush meters that will do inrush basically are looking for zero current, and then they measure, you turn it on, it measures all of the current, and then that's it, that's your inrush. But it's looking for sort of starting point from zero, which is no good if you've got a circuit where you've got other things connected on the circuit. You've got a base load, you've got a certain amount of current flowing anyway. You're just looking for the additional inrush because that's the bit that's causing the problem. That's the bit that's causing your breaker to trip or your fuse to blow. These actually will measure true inrush, so they are really useful in that regard as well. So yeah, great starting point with these. You've got the F407 and the F607, basically the same thing, just bigger jaws on the 607 and a bigger capacity. So effectively, I think you've got 3,000 amps on the larger one and 1,000 amps on the smaller one. So again, it's just the difference in size, really. The functionality, the features that they give you is exactly the same. But if you're looking to start and dip your toe just into this, and you just think, for now, I just want to start, you're going to renew your clamp meter, have a look at one of these, because I think they're a really great bit of kit. Now, when we talk about logging, really the perfect solution for logging, these are becoming sort of industry standard products for logging, is the PEL series, the Power and Energy loggers, the PEL 100 series. So there's a number of models within the Power and Energy logger series now. We've got the PEL 102, which is a basic Power and Energy logger, but you'll notice it has no display. So a lot of times people prefer to have a display on the front so they can actually see what's going on and that sort of thing. So you've got the PEL 102 and the PEL 103, basically the same thing, only the PEL 103 actually has a display and controls on the front of the tester, whereas the PEL 102 doesn't. That's just controlled via the software or via the app from that side of things. So that's quite often used in a fixed installation where it can just be installed in the installation left and maybe dialed into remotely. So that's a good way to go with that. Then we've got two relatively new products came out earlier this year. We've got the PEL 104, which is quite similar to the PEL 103, but the PEL 104 has got Wi-Fi and it's also got GPRS 3G connectivity as well. So you can put a SIM card into that and dial into it remotely. And we've got the PEL 106, which is quite similar to the PEL 104, but it's an IP rated enclosure. So these are designed for use outside or in environments where they need to be IP rated. And again, that's the family of products that we've got there, and they are really powerful, but they are small, and they're designed to work with single phase, 3-phase, or even DC installations. So we can log and report on all of the installation parameters, even harmonics. So these things will even do up to the 50th harmonic as well. So you're starting to cross over from these into, the functions that you would expect on a power quality analyzer. So they are really powerful for the size of these things. But they're designed, they've got a magnetic back, they'll clip inside the door of a panel or inside a switch panel. And sometimes people will use these for logging for a period of time, but they'll equally use these as a part of a fixed install. They'll put them in, connect them up, and use them and dial into them remotely from that sort of thing. So these are really, really useful, great bits of kit to have, and really, really versatile from that side of things. Now, we mentioned that there's a load of these different ones in the range. We've got the 102, the 103, the 104, and the 106. And they're designed to work in different environments, but the connectivity is actually key to these things. So on the PEL 102, PEL 103, we've got LAN connectivity. So again, we can connect them up to a local area network. We can dial into these things from within the network. We can also connect to them using the free Android app, which is really useful. So when you're setting these up, you can connect to them via the Android app and see that the thing's operating. You can change some of the configurations and things like that when you're on site. It's really good. But then if we start and get into the PEL 104s and 106s, then we've obviously add Wi-Fi onto that and also GPRS as well. So we can dial into them via the SIM connection. So you can see that means that they can be used in a variety of different roles within an installation, either in a permanent situation or mobile. And really from that side of things, it is a really versatile tool for doing logging and really getting some, really good, detailed, powerful results. And as I say, you're really on the edge of the performance you'd expect from a power quality analyzer actually with the PEL. Now, going on to actual power quality analyzers itself, we have the Qualistar Plus range of power quality analyzers, and they take the depth of analysis to the next level. They have the ability to log trend data, which is basically your live data, but your voltage, your current, and all those sort of things over a period of time. You can monitor specific alarms, so you can actually set it and say, if my current goes over this number or below this number, trigger that alarm. So it will actually record those specific events for you. We can record transients, so we can set this and we can say, look, I'm interested in transients. If that voltage goes over, 1,000 volts, I want it to record that transient. And what it does, it records the waveform, and it'll record 1 cycle before and 3 cycles afterwards and show you where that transient occurred. So you can actually really analyze in on that. Same with inrush currents. If you wanted to, look at the inrush currents for a particular piece of equipment, you can set it up and you can actually see in great detail on the screen where that inrush currents actually fits in. So when viewing the data in real time, the Qualistar becomes a very powerful diagnostic tool capable of getting to the bottom of most power quality issues. As I said, this is why a lot of power quality professionals really like these tools, because they can use them in real time. So yes, they can do trend analysis and logging and things like that, but you can actually connect this up to an installation and carry out real-time fault finding. You can look at that waveform. You can look at those harmonics in real time, and you can actually make changes to the installation. You can turn a circuit on, you can turn a circuit off, you can turn a bit of equipment on or off, and you can look at the installation and say, yep, that's actually changed what's gone, the fault's gone away, or it's come back, or, that's changed by this amount, which means this. So you can actually really get into the nuts and bolts and the diagnostics, which is where these things are really, really powerful. Now, obviously, all of this equipment is great, but we really need to be able to get the data out. We need to, these are capture devices. These are ways of capturing that data. But what we need to be able to do is we need to be able to read and analyze and report on that data. So all Chauvin Arnoux downloading products come with free software to be able to access and analyze your data. You can produce simple reports too. So this is a great thing about Chauvin Arnoux. Generally, if you've got a product with downloading capabilities, there will be free software or a free app or something like that that goes with it. You don't have to pay extra for, to be able to use those products, which is not the same of a lot of companies. Now, if you want to take that to the next level, we've also got the data view software. So with data view software, you can create professional, personalized report templates and produce client reports in just a few clicks. So what you can do with data view then is you take the free software, you export the data out of that into the data view software, and then in data view, you can create these specific reports within data view. We talked about an EN 50160 report. You can create those. You can create any of the services that we talked about in here. You can design your own report template specifically for those reports. You can import the waveforms, you can import the graphs, you can alter it, you can change the colors, you can add text, you can add your own company logos, the customer's company logos, signatures, whatever you want. You can create these templates, and then the next time you do it, all you do is you just download the data from the device into that template. There's the report. A couple of tweaks here and there if there's bits you want to emphasize, a couple of comments maybe. Press go, creates a PDF report, and you can share that with your customer straight away. So these things are really adaptable, really sort of personalizable, for want of a better term. You can set up these templates and really, make this a quick and easy part of your business. It's really powerful for doing that. Now, when we're looking at the equipment, we talked about return on investment and what have you actually got to pay for these things. So let's talk pounds, shillings, and pence. Let's get into this now. So if you're going to get, the sort of standard energy logger type product, which would be really the PEL 103 is your sort of your starting point really for most things for most customers. So we offer a PEL 103, a complete logger kit. Now within this kit, there's things you don't always think about. And I will say, if you're looking at competitor products, just be aware of this, because quite often you'll buy a power and energy logger, but it doesn't include the current coils, the Rogowski coils. So you don't get the coils with it for actually measuring current. So you think, well, hang on, well, how much extra are those? And they can be, hundreds of pounds extra. So always be aware when you're looking at these things. And particularly as we talked about with the software. Well, in this particular bundle that we've got here, you actually get the PEL 103, you get the coils, so you get your 3 coils for measuring your line voltage, your line currents. You get all of the connections for doing your voltage connections with the croc clips. You get your SD card included even, SD card reader, even the USB download cable. You even get the data view software, so not just the basic software, but the data view software included. And we even chuck in a free Android tablet as well. So you get an Android tablet in there to be able to use with the app. And obviously you can use that for all sorts of other things as well, but you've got a free Android tablet in there. And all of that's included within the bundle. Now, there's another thing here that sometimes you don't often think of as well. What we've actually got is there's an adapter here to allow you to power the PEL unit from the circuit you're measuring. So rather than having to run a power supply to the PEL separately to keep it going during the logging period, if you use the adapter, which is included in the kit, then you connect it up to your mains installation. The mains installation is then powering the PEL. So you can leave it there for a long period of time. As long as your mains is on, your PEL's going to be on. So again, these are extra things that aren't always included. And you find out afterwards with a lot of other manufacturers, oh God, how much extra is that? How much extra is that? All of these things are included in this kit. And that kit, all in, is just over £2,000, excluding the VAT. So plus the VAT on that. So realistically, it's not cheap. But again, this is a reliable quality product. These are quality products that you're going to get. So it's a reliable quality product. You've got everything included. You've got all of the coils included, everything you would need to start doing the services that we've talked about on here for just over £2,000. Now, if you wanted to go the extra step and you say, well, look, while I'm doing this, I want to be able to offer all these services. We're going to go big in this as a business. We think this is a good way to go. And you wanted to look at going down the route of a proper power quality analyzer like the 8336, that will set you back just over £4,000 excluding the VAT. But again, we're including the data view software, so all the reporting software is included in there, and we're including the clamps as well. And as I say, I know I keep mentioning about this with the clamps, but a lot of our competitors, the clamps will be extra. So always look when you're buying these things, are the clamps included? Because if they're not, that can cost you a lot of money extra as well. So again, that's the kit. So as you can see with Chauvin Arnoux, adding power and energy services to your business doesn't cost a fortune. Now, I did a quick internet search, and a quick internet search shows the prices for a quick health check survey somewhere about 180 quid. So I've seen quick look online, power quality health check around 180 quid. More detailed inspections, I've seen those on for 550 quid, and I've also seen them going over 1,000, about 1,100 quid. So, if you look at that, the actual return on investment isn't too bad. If you could be doing power quality surveys at £1,000 and the equipment to do it has cost you £4,000, your fifth one basically pays for itself. So at that point, you can actually see that you start to make money quite quickly with those. Now, we're not saying, you're going to buy one of these, the next day you're going to be out there doing these things straight away. You can build up to it. As I've said, it's a scalable business. It's a scalable way of doing it. But there aren't that many people out there at the moment offering these services. you can see from what we were saying earlier in the session that there is a demand there, and that demand is only going to go up. There's customers with these questions in their heads now. What do I do about my energy efficiency? What's up with my electrical installation? You can be the person who can go and offer them this solution, but you need to have this stuff in place to be able to do that. But hopefully you can see that there's a reasonably good return on investment and reasonably short payback periods, obviously depending on the type of services that you're going to be able to offer when you start adding this to your business. So in this last little bit, we're going to show you how to get started. Once you've decided which new services you're going to add to your business, then you need to purchase the right test equipment. And hopefully today we've given you a good idea of what's available and an overview of what test equipment you're likely to need to provide those services. Luckily, Chauvin Arnoux are here to help you every step of the way. From pre-sales consultations and advice to product demonstration and ongoing technical support, we're here to help make your new service a success. And we do mean that, really. You know, one of the things we pride ourselves on is being accessible and actually helping our customers all the way through. So, you know, we go through these things, we give you these ideas, we suggest you add these services, but we are here to hold your hand all the way through that. So anything you want to see, you know, talk about ideas you've got, look at the products, get a demonstration online or in person, you know, trial a product, whatever. Just get in touch with us. You know, we are here to help all the way through. And we have got a lot of knowledge within the business. And I think that's something that a lot of our competitors can't say quite as much. You know, within the business, we've got people who've been doing this a long time and have a lot of knowledge and, you know, are able to spend that time advising you and helping really from that side of things. Yeah, so, you know, whatever service you decide, we're here to help. So when you choose Chauvin Arnoux products, you're getting market-leading quality and reliability. Now, I can't underline that enough. You know, when you pick up Chauvin Arnoux products, you do feel the quality and reliability on there. You know, a majority of these products have got 3-year warranties. And really, you know, we see very, very few warranty claims on these products. You know, they are reliable. They're designed to do the job and do it well. Our product support, servicing and calibration is carried out in the UK. So a lot of times people worry, you know, Chauvin Arnoux, it's a very French sounding name, it's a very French company. But actually our support, service and calibration is UK based. We don't have to send these things off to France. We have a well-established local distribution network and hold high levels of stock in our UK warehouse. So you'll always have product available quickly when you need it. So if you suddenly decide you need an adapter or a clamp or a new lead or whatever it is, chances are we've got that on the shelf in our warehouse in Dewsbury and we can get that out to you very quickly. So again, don't be put off by the fact that you think, oh yeah, if we order it, it'll have to come from France, all these sort of things. Generally, most items we keep locally in the UK. Now, the next steps, what can you do next? Well, you probably want a bit more information. You probably want to start reading up and you know, building up your knowledge on these things. So we've created a dedicated UK website where we put videos. So we put a lot of our videos, like these webinar videos, will be up on there. And also we've got a lot of technical application-based articles. So my colleague Julian writes lots and lots of articles. All of those articles go onto the website and you can have a look through here and you can read up on all of the stuff we've talked about today. You know, there's detailed articles there to really support you and start to, you know, get you into this subject and get you sort of swatted up on the topics that you need to know. We've also got our YouTube channel with a lot of videos on there, and they're going to be putting more videos. You know, one of my jobs is going to be creating more and more video content as we get into next year. You'll see a lot more videos appearing on there. So we've got our YouTube channel, and that's youtube.com/Chauvin Arnoux UK. If you go to that channel, obviously, please subscribe. Give us a subscribe. It'd be nice to see the subscribers increasing on there because it helps us sort of increase our visibility on YouTube as well from that side of things. But there's going to be loads of great content on there. So get on there, have a look at the videos and subscribe. Now, if you're interested in any of our products and you said, look, I've seen all this. I've seen the webinar. I've bought it. I want to add these. I want to add these services in. I want to go down this route. Obviously, please get in touch with us. We can do you a free consultation. We can do any product demonstrations. So if you want to get in touch with us, you can call on our office number there, 01924 460 494, or you can email us at info@chauvin-arnoux.co.uk. You can also visit our UK website, chauvin-arnoux.co.uk, or our media site, as I said, where we've got all of our articles and our videos and things like that, which is cauk.tv. So have a look at all of those things. Again, please get in touch with us. We're more than happy to discuss any of the things that's gone through. If you've got any ideas, you want to talk through, well, how would this work? Could you show me an example of this? I'd like to find out a bit more about that. Get in touch with us. We're more than happy to do that. That's what we're here for. So we really love that level of interaction, see customers actually, using our products and starting to think of new and innovative services they can add. So that's really great. So let's just recap what we've covered in this webinar today. So the webinar was called Power Quality and Energy Efficiency, a New Business Opportunity. We looked at the need in the marketplace. We saw the fact that energy prices are going up. We saw the fact that demand is going to increase over time. And the only way we're going to really manage that is by looking for energy efficiency and trying to make installations more efficient. We had a detailed look at all the possible services you could add to your business, whether that's with power and energy login or where that's going into full power quality. We looked at the equipment required, or the equipment that we've got available from that, and the deals, and we also looked at the return on investment that you could get if you invest in that equipment. And then we looked at where you can get started from that side of things and where you can get more information. So hopefully you're happy that we've covered all of that stuff in there, and it's give you some food for thought, really. It's got the cogs turning about how you can actually add power quality and energy efficiency services to your business. So thank you for joining us on the webinar. So if you have a look at our website, cauk.tv/webinars, and on there we've got a list of all of our previous webinars that we carried out. And as I said, in about a week's time, we'll get this on the website as well. And we've also got our YouTube channel, and we're trying to promote our YouTube channel at the moment. So please go on there, please subscribe and get notifications, sign up for the notifications so that every time we put a new video up there, you'll get a notification, you can have a look. But I mean, I think this is about the 9th webinar that we've done. We've been doing these for a few months now. So we've got this range of webinars going. So there's loads of content on there already for, low resistance measurements, earth resistance measurements, power quality, all sorts of things that we've already got on here. So we've got a nice suite of webinars on there. They're all similar content to this. They're all similar duration. So again, real great content that we've put together there. So hopefully that's something you can go back and have a look at. Now, just to finish up, obviously, thank you very much for attending this session. It's always great to see such a good turnout on these webinars, and these webinars have been really, really popular. And obviously, that's why we do it, because we like to see the feedback that we're getting from the customers. So remember, before you go to the handout section and download the PDF copy of the presentation. And also keep an eye out in your email box for your certificate that'll be sent out after the event. Normally they go out a few days after we finish the event. We usually have 2 showings of the webinar. So we do 2 sessions, and then a bit after that, they'll be sent out automatically. If you haven't received it, just check your junk folder or something that it hasn't gone in there. But generally, they're sent out automatically, and that's pretty reliable system. We have got the webinars available on demand, as I said, on our website, www.cauk.tv, and we've also got them on our YouTube channel. And if you want more information, we've actually got a load of technical articles and other content available on our website, cauk.tv. So again, we'd urge you to have a look at that and go on there and sign up for the mailing list as well. And then when new content goes on, you'll be informed of that. So thank you very much for listening to the webinar today. If you've got any questions, you can type them into the questions box now, but hopefully we've answered those all through the session as we've gone. And I hope to see you again on another webinar soon. Thank you very much for your time.